Hi, welcome back. This is going to be a video on the Maggio Lesson 5 Endurance. I've precedingly done Warm-up A, Lessons 1 and 3. This is the fifth lesson in the first section of Maggio. Lessons 1, 3 and 5 relate to Warm-up A, and Lessons 2 and 4 relate to Maggio Warm-up B. The following on material relating to warm-up C and D will be coming, but it takes a lot of time to get this stuff down. So, lesson 5, endurance. When researching a lot of this stuff and deciding to really try to get into, I suppose, the guts of this method, I looked and looked and looked and looked to see what I could find out there, and I haven't been able to find a lot of information. A lot of people seem to stop with the initial sections of Warm Up A and Lesson 1, and maybe a little bit of Warm Up B and Lesson 2. The lessons that I've had have only been at the beginning of the Maggio material. Doesn't mean to say that I can't be taught more, so I may go in search of a certain Mr. Mike Lovett and see if he has any more input on this. But for now, just to reiterate, as I said in my previous video on Lesson 3, this is how I have explored the Maggio technique, what I feel about it, the benefits I've had from it, and some of the pitfalls along the way, and some of the problems that I have. And I'm pretty sure you'll notice it. My playing isn't perfect in every one of these. I aim to have a nice big full sonorous pedal C, and sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it comes out as an air biscuit or just fresh air, if you know that term as well. But certainly trying to strive to do this for myself, I try and adhere to a lot of the specifics, like in the teaching aids for Louis Maggio's technique. He talks about interval tuning, the fullness of sound, the tongue doing its correct job. So not just obviously the tongue syllables, but the tonguing and the striking of the note, the clarity, etc. I suppose that goes for pretty much every trumpet methodology that's out there, and trumpet playing in general. So lesson 5 for endurance. Proceed with warm up A. I'm reading this down from the top, incidentally, of lesson 5. Play this exercise in a very aggressive fashion, so I'll demonstrate that best by playing it. This exercise starts off on our pedal C, and it's a broken arpeggio, and it ascends and then it inverts the broken arpeggio. So it starts off in C, E, C, C, E, G, E, C, C, E, G, C, G, E, C. Then it flips it and it goes C, G, C, C, G, E, G, C, C, G, E, C, E, G, C, etc. And that's the way it progresses until again we get to the F sharp and further into the exercise as well. Each one of these groups are slurred. So every time we are tonguing the lower section of this, we're always tonguing the pedal note. So every one of the C's in this case is tongued, and that's the same with the top as well. So we're slurring through every motion. Okay, so we have to make sure our support is in place. In this register, we're in the tar position as well. So I think the best way that I can describe moving through the intervals in the pedal register is really more, I suppose it is tongue control in terms of where the pitch is within the mouth. Okay, we're still thinking about the ta, but the very, very small incremental changes we can make to make sure that we are sliding from a pedal C to a pedal E, etc. Hopefully that will come through when I'm playing it. Section 4, so this is lesson 5, obviously, in the first part. Apply all of the principles used in the previous lessons. So maybe we should look at lesson 4 prior to coming to this lesson as well, because they are all sequential, but it doesn't mean to say when you have played them all that you can't go backwards and forwards between them. I know I still do. There's certain things about lesson 1 that I really, really love, particularly if I've had a few days off or I've not done as much playing as I would like. It's a great foundation to really make sure that everything's in place. Don't overblow. So these phrases are quite long, and like in lesson 3, I find that I may have to pause and take a very, very quick nose breath. I suppose that's where the aggressive nature that Maggio talks about comes into in this. We don't hang about in these exercises, at least I don't think we're supposed to. I don't see the point in much. This is about trying to play with flow and throughout the registers as efficiently as possible. And that ultimately will help us with our endurance. If we're not being efficient, we're not flowing, then something's getting in the way, and ultimately that is going to inhibit our endurance. Which brings me on to the flow studies lessons that are going to be coming up. Really, really enjoy the flow studies. Really hard, but really, really, really beneficial. Anyway, I digress. So, last section 6. Observe, air, relax, and syllables. So, in terms of those things I really just talked about in my previous words about making sure that our syllables are in place once we start going through the register, making sure that our air is flowing, etc. So I think what we should do now is really just get started. My room is still freezing, so let's just make sure I've got a pedal C first. That's not bad. So, big full breath. Here we go. So you see there, just having to take a very, very short breath before the last set. As we start to ascend through the registers, then obviously we're not using as much air. So maybe there's a way that I can play this more efficiently. Answers in the comments. Anyway, so again, we just carry on chromatically. So I'll do a few more, and then we'll come back in where we transition onto our pedal C motif. Yeah, and you may have picked up they're not really that well in tune, so must work harder, Mr. J. Alright, so came back in there on the F, and then the pedal C motif, and then moving into F sharp range. And that's pretty much that we carry on, the way we carry on until we get quite a bit higher into the upper register. So when we are in this register, of course, we're really only still in the ta area, for example. And again, it's not until we start getting towards our third space C that we have to think about the syllable changing again. So that's where we're going to come back in. Okay, so moving up now from our ta, and we're starting to include our te in there. And I suppose because these are quite brisk moving arpeggios, we can almost think of them like arpeggios. So it's really, really teaching us to move quickly, or quicker than we have done so far, between our syllables that we're using to help transition. And again, this exercise pretty much just stays the same until we start getting up towards our upper register. So we'll come back in again towards the end of the E position. So we're already at the A position, and we're going to just come in as though we've gone through the transition from the A to the E. And when we're up there, we will be transitioning anyway through a ta, a te, and a T, and then we'll carry on all in the one go up to the tsh. Okay? Okay, here we go. B flat. Ooh, a bit wobbly. So we're going into the tsh syllable now. What I'll do is I'll keep going, because once we get past C and we go into C sharp, we don't flip the exercise around. We only ascend. We don't do the descending part. Okay? And I suppose, yes, I am treating these like lip flexibilities. I'm making sure that when I'm making the transition, I am trying to flow through each one of these little arpeggiated sections. But I'm really trying to be almost percussive, I think, with my ear to make sure that each slot is hitting. I suppose so when I'm doing lip flexibilities and flow studies, which we'll come to in a different lesson, trying to make sure that every transition is super smooth and nice but clean is ultimately where I want to get to. So again, taking the time to make sure that every one of these transitions, particularly when we're trying to think about different syllables as well, are in place, taking the time to do that is quite important. So here we go. So this is us into C, our C arpeggios. And this will be the last one where we flip it and we do the descending from the top note. Okay, so we'll do a couple of these and then we'll jump forward a little bit. So again, we're only going to do essentially the first half of each one of these. And obviously we're still going to maintain our descending pedal C motif. So, you may notice I'm also taking a little bit more time over these. I don't have to play through them as aggressively as I did in the lower registers, because I don't have as much to play to get through. So I'm still trying to be really focused on getting the right intervals in the right place and trying to make them happen when I want them to happen. But I'm just being a little bit more careful about the placement of the note, making sure that my syllable is in place. and at the same time trying to make sure that my throat is in a still open position. Okay, so we're going to jump forward a little bit more again. Right, so we are now coming to, I suppose, the next change in how this section works, and this is one of the hardest ones I think before moving on to warm up C and D. I suppose it is lesson 5, so we're supposed to have all of our material in place already. We're familiar with our support mechanisms, we're familiar with our syllables, etc. And we're also fully expecting these upper notes to take their time to appear. So where we're going to finish off is we're going to finish off with G, as we just did. And then the change that happens, I'll go straight through to save any more chat. The change that happens is we do our pedal C motif and we progress into A flat, but we only play an A flat to a C slurred, and then we do the pedal motif, and then we do A flat C E flat slurred, and then we do the pedal motif, and then we finish off hopefully going A flat C E flat A flat at the top. Okay, so our syllable transition in the G, where we're going to start, is still T, sh, or tsh, E, but we're slurring through, so it's T, she, is where we're going. And then when we get into the A flat, we're still remaining on the T, but we really want to make sure that our support is fully in place and not blown too hard. We're going to ensure that we have got enough air inside of us from the pedal motif between each little slurred section. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll stop after A flat, and then we'll have a little bit of fun and see how high we can go today. So this is the end of that middle section on our top Gs. Okay there, so that's the change that happens, and that's the way we progress through lesson 5 until I suppose we run out of steam. Now, the one thing that I didn't mention there is once we've done each partial ascending arpeggio, so from the A flat to the C and then going into the pedal register, I found no note or direction to take a breath after that high note going into the pedal C, which means that you might not get as long as a pause as you want on your pedal C. But providing you still carry on through, you don't disturb anything here, then you should be able to get it. So from the start of each one of these sections, from the pedal C all the way to your last high note, which in this case was the A flat, there should be no embouchure break whatsoever. So here we are easily tying together, so what's that? 1, 2, well over 2.5 octaves with the same embouchure, okay? So again, not blowing too hard, making sure that our syllables are in place, and take a little bit more time maybe between each one of these sections. I'm lucky, I'm getting to chat between them. One of the ways that I like to think about taking the rest time when it's appropriate between exercises or parts of exercises is think the exercise back through in your head, almost as though someone was playing the other side of it or playing along with you and doing the exact same thing when you're resting. So we're moving on to A now. just about got the A there to come out. So I think I moved faster through the ascending arpeggio motifs there to try and give it a little bit more time on the pedal register. Because I think getting that pedal note happening there and blowing through, it's really going to help reset the aperture for the higher register. Also, it gives you time just to kind of, before you actually play that A in this case, or the B flat we're going to go into next, it gives you a chance to think about, are my corners in the nice position, set position that they should do. Again, when you see me take a breath in and I say, I always try and make sure that when I'm set here, it's as though I was going to be playing a lead line in a gig. I'm not thinking about anything other than just having everything in the right place and ready to go. So, fingers crossed for B flat. I think I got lucky there. I suppose a wee comment in pressure. I do feel that when I do get up there to, I think, support the note against the amount of compressed air that I'm putting into it, I do feel as though I'm using a little bit of left hand and left arm pressure. I really try to make sure that I check that when I'm up there as well. So if I'm on the F, sometimes you might hear my third note, particularly in this exercise, crack or waver. I'm actually trying to think about loosening the grip in my hand, okay? Now, ideally, if I was super up on my compression and everything was as I wanted it to be, able to play, double C with next to nothing, maybe even on the palm technique. That's a goal that I'm aiming for. But as it is for now, with all my failures, trying to get these top notes to come out, but be in control. So not have to use a lot of pressure is ultimately what we want to get to just now. So just now I'm thinking minimal pressure. And hopefully the more any pressure that I am using here starts to decrease, the sound will start to open. Because these are all kind of imbalances that are getting in the way of the sound coming out. Obviously, I'm not strong enough here or strong enough here to just nail out double C's and D's. That's why my range is topping out around about a B flat or a B just now. It's a learning process. So hopefully by seeing or hearing how my sound is in this register as well, then, it'll give you encouragement thinking, well, yeah, I mean, it's like, we don't all have double C's. We don't all have top G's all of the time even. So these little journeys, we all do them personally. It's just a way to take it. So I think I've talked enough. Let's see if we can get this B to come out with as little pressure as possible. Okay, so I have to find out where a B is. Okay. Oh, dear me. Bit of a lack of confidence there coming in the top B. Shall we give us one more go? Right, let's give it one more go. I kind of actually forgot what I was doing there. My mind wandered. Focus. Very, very important. Right, okay. One more time. On the B. No, that's where we're stopping today. Anyway, so that's what it's all about. Just really practicing and trying your hardest. You're really competing against yourself when it comes down to it. You should never be competing against anyone else in the gig. There's always going to be someone who can play double C's all night long. There's always someone who can play mental bebop lines all night long. There's always going to be someone who's going to have a beautiful flugelhorn tone. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. The work you put in the practice room should be for your benefit, you know, and hopefully you can share that with someone else on the gig. And that's what it's all about, folks. So that's the fifth in the Maggio initial lessons. Each one has their own little thing to take away from and apply in our playing, etc. The next warm up C and warm up D are an entirely different ball game, but of the same vein. A little bit more challenging in terms of the things you have to, I suppose, bring to each one of the lessons, so they encompass a little bit more, maybe a little bit more in terms of lip flexibilities, a little bit more in terms of our tonguing, etc. So I hope you've enjoyed these 5 lessons. I still do all of these individually every day. I rotate them, I try them slurred, etc. I'll do them with a metronome, I'll do them with a tone generator. There's a video up regarding that. And I'll do them with tuner as well, and some days I won't. So the main thing is go away, practice, have fun, enjoy your playing. Very, very trying times just now. And don't forget, you know, it's like play some tunes, listen to some music as well. Research out some stuff that you've not listened to in a long time. Go and support your friends online if they've got live events happening or pre-records or such, all that type of stuff. And I suppose when it comes down to it, you know, enjoy playing trumpet. It's what we're trying to do. So hit the bell icon, subscribe, like, all that sort of stuff. Forgot to say, I have included a PayPal.me account link with every video now. It's in my little page bio as well. All this content is free and will always be free. A lot of this material anyway is out there on the internet. So the point of the PayPal link, I don't have Patreon, I don't know if I'm going to go down that route, is if you do feel that I need to go and get some lessons, please give me some money and I'll go and get some lessons. More importantly, it's actually about this little studio costs me money, you know. The equipment, the maintenance, the upkeep, etc. The time to a certain degree, but this is keeping me sane, so I would be doing something like this anyway. Any donations you feel that you want to make, then they are more than appreciated and very, very thank you. And if you don't feel, then don't feel guilty about it as well. It's okay. It's a lot of musicians that are watching this content. And if you're in the same boat as me, then, you know, income is very, very challenged just now. So enjoy the videos. Any comments, greatly, greatly appreciated. Negative or positive, just keep them clean. Got a lot of kids, my students watch this stuff as well. And other than that, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again in person, maybe in a bandstand or a gig sometime soon. Thanks very much.